Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ryan Harris, and I'll be guiding you through the latest in our series of Built for NetSuite webinars alongside Tipalti. Today, I'm joined by Vida Ayadi, Senior Solutions Consultant at Tipalti, as well as Brandon Waite, the Alliance Manager at Tipalti. If anyone has any questions during the webinar, please use the chat option provided. We'll answer all of your questions in the Q&A later in the session. So I'll now hand you over to Brandon, who'll take you through an initial presentation before Vida provides you with an overview of the product. Over to you, Brandon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to work with NoBlue as well as your clients. To kick things off, I just want to share a quick agenda as to what we'll be covering today. Light intros. I'll speak quickly kind of to who Tipalti is as a company and share a case study as well, so we can see how companies are leveraging Tipalti to maximize their payable efficiencies, and then we'll hand it over to Vida for a live demo before wrapping up with Q&A. Quick introductions, as Ryan mentioned, I have the absolute pleasure of managing the partnership with NoBlue. NoBlue is an outstanding NetSuite partner in the UK. They have a very client-first attitude, which absolutely resonates with the value of Tipalti as well. I'll jump into a little bit on that later. But again, my role here is managing our relationship with NoBlue and any clients that you may have. And then Vida, would you give yourself a quick introduction as well?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Vida Ayadi, Senior Solution Consultant here. Just a real quick background about myself. I have a finance accounting background, and I've worked on AP and finance teams. And thank you for the opportunity to present to you. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Vida. So awesome. Before we jump into the platform and the solution today, I just want to give you a high-level overview of who we are as a company. To sum things up, we're really focused on two principles. And the first is, helping your finance team move beyond these manual payables processes so you can focus on more strategic initiatives, but also ensuring that our customers are successful long-term. You can see, our 99%, 98% customer satisfaction ratings. These are metrics that we take a great deal of pride in, as well as we, transact over $18 billion per year annually. So we're also a licensed money transmitter. We're a regulated financial institution, and that means we're also, subject to all the strict scrutiny and legislation that goes along with that designation. Who do we help? We help over 1,400 customers. You see from the logo slides, there are many that are, quite familiar, such as Twitch or Twitter, perhaps, maybe GoPro. But Tipalti really fits squarely within the SMB, small to mid-sized business market very well, especially anywhere where NetSuite plays. Tipalti is a great fit for businesses of those types. So, high velocity businesses that are growing rapidly, absolutely, and businesses that are really looking to leverage technology to maximize their own internal efficiencies as well. We've invested heavily to create a very robust integration to NetSuite, which Vida will speak to that in a bit more detail later. But because of that, NetSuite has really doubled down on Tipalti, giving us their Partner of the Year status in 2019. We do work with global customers, many in the UK. I've highlighted 4 down at the bottom of the logo list, that we're working with currently. There are many more. Just didn't have enough room on the slide, but rest assured that we are a global solution, and we are very capable of supporting the needs for UK-based companies. Awesome. And I want to share just a quick case study from one of our clients, Docker. Docker is a software company, but it's really a great example of a multi-subsidiary company and how they're able to scale their payable operations. So they have 8 entities around the world, right? And they don't have a big accounts payable team because they've really done a great job of operationalizing their function, right? Prior to investing in their AP process, it was a very manual process for them to pay invoices, and the process really varied across all their subsidiaries. It's different in the US than it was in some of their international subsidiaries as well. So at one point they had one team member spending one full workday, 8 hours, just preparing payment batches. There were a lot of payments being paid with paper check, which are not efficient. They're prone to fraud. And they just didn't have a great way of syncing all this payment information into NetSuite because these processes were so disjointed. They're running into issues with duplicate payments as well. What Docker was really looking to do is to really kind of streamline payables into one single solution that just brought everything together. So what did that look like? Onboarding new vendors, new suppliers into their system was really important to Docker. So they wanted a tool where suppliers could kind of do that process all on their own, provide the inputs to actually create that vendor record within NetSuite as well, take that workload off of their internal AP team. They wanted it consistent for all vendors. They wanted it to look like it was coming from Docker. And I'll let Vita speak more to that in just a moment. And then on the finance side, they really wanted a single place where they could manage all of their payment activity, kind of from the top down. So before they had 5 different bank portals that they had to log into, fund, and manage, and it just became a hassle very quickly. So, Tipalti, really jumped in and helped them kind of bring all their payables operations under one system. This has been a huge time saver for them, gives them confidence for audits, et cetera. So now they have that same team member spending only 1 hour preparing payments altogether. Accruals are also easier between the international and the US invoices, bringing those all together as well. They're saving time with the onboarding, especially for tax forms for their international suppliers as well. They're speeding up their invoice process using OCR scans of the invoices. And they have, this very accurate reporting within connected to NetSuite that's showing all pending and open payments. So in the end, we're able to reduce their workload by over 87%, speed up their monthly close as well. Certainly is a success story for Tipalti. And then, high level to, what makes Tipalti unique? How can we help your finance organization? We are really set up to help businesses scale efficiently. So if you start using Tipalti and you have, maybe 100 or so invoices per month that you need to process, Tipalti is set up so that you can rapidly scale from 100 to 1,000 to 3,000 to whatever you need to, wherever you want to go. If you expand your organization globally, you need to open up more subsidiaries. We map to NetSuite One World. We have, so many global capabilities as well with respect to payments, languages, et cetera. We just highlighted Docker's 87% efficiency. We have 80% listed here, which is relatively conservative. We also have case studies where clients are really improving efficiency into the 90 percentile. So, we're helping that out. And then as you grow and you need to strengthen your financial controls, we're helping you establish those audit-proof best practices, setting up permission-based roles, et cetera, for who can actually, access the financial control information. And then you're also going to need more visibility as well into your cash flow, faster reconciliation back into NetSuite, as financial reporting becomes more critical to your business. So, when you're at those stages, we're definitely here to partner with you. Awesome. Well, I may have gone through that a little bit fast, but I'm going to hand it over to Vita now, and Vita can demonstrate the platform to you.
Thank you, Brandon. So let me go ahead and share my screen here for you so you can see.
All right, you should be the presenter now.
Perfect. So let me know when you can see my screen, Brandon.
Yep, we've got your PowerPoint and presentation. Looks great.
Right, perfect. So thank you, everyone. For the purposes of the demo, I like to start with this slide first because for 2 reasons. First being that it sets the tone for what you will see in the demo. And additionally, the fact that what Tipalti does for global payables automation, starting out at 12 o'clock noon with the supplier management portal that allows clients to be able to have one centralized location where they capture the information from their payees and suppliers, automating that process, making it all easy, where it's in the hands of the supplier, the payees, where they're keying their information. And what Tipalti has added on to that is in the background, we're running the vetting on the information that's being captured every single step of the way, and also presenting the supplier with detailed information as to what we need to have in order to make sure that all the information is correct. And the downstream effect of that, when it lands in the hands of accounting and finance, they have the correct information to process the invoices that are now coming in. If you look at 4 o'clock, the information in terms of what kind of terms are on these invoices that are being submitted by the suppliers. In terms of processing the invoices, Tipalti uses OCR technology, AI, and machine learning, which you will see in the demo today. We'll talk to that. And being able to process the invoices, take it through the proper approvals to make sure that it's landing in the right spot and then it's being processed, taking it through its journey. Since we do have the partnership and the integration with NetSuite, we're able to handle the 2-way and 3-way PO matching. So we'll talk about that also. At 6 o'clock, you'll see that talks about how Tipalti is a licensed money transmitter. So we act very much like a bank. We're able to pay into 190 countries, 120 currencies, and 6 different payment methods, making it easy and efficient for clients to process their payments. Having said that, we act very much like a bank, so we're able to provide currency exchange. So if clients are interested in paying their headquarters in Canada, for instance, in Canadian dollars, we're able to offer that ability, which we'll talk about when we go into the payment section of the demo. Last but not least, on our harbor tour today is reconciliation and reporting, and what is available within the solution to offer that for clients that are wanting to get reporting out of the Tipalti solution. So that is the flow of the demo that we have today. Another slide that I like to present to the audience today is the NetSuite Tipalti integration. Out of the box, what's available is the ability to have the vendors on board within the Tipalti portal, and that information syncs over to NetSuite and creates the vendor record in NetSuite. Let's say that finance and accounting are creating the vendor records in NetSuite, and there is a bidirectional sync, so that information would sync over in real time over to Tipalti, update Tipalti. So when the invoices are being ingested into Tipalti, it recognizes the vendor and knows that, yes, there is a vendor record for this bill that's come in. At the time that we sync the invoices over to NetSuite is at the time the approval of the invoices. And that again happens in real time. Is there an image of the invoice that's going over? The actual invoice goes over to NetSuite and sits in the file management cabinet there. And there's also the invoice created in Tipalti, and it stays in there also. At the time of the bill payment, when that happens, then the information flows over into NetSuite and updates NetSuite. So that's also the integration that you get. I wanted to real quickly mention that, so we will talk about that as we go into the demo. So if you have any questions when we're in those segments, please feel free to put them in chat. Happy to answer any of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in into the solution as, hang on one second, I think the gremlins have not been fed, and I'm going to go ahead and feed them again so I can log into the solution here. And I'm going to log into the Tipalti AP Hub that finance and accounting uses, And I'm going to take on the persona of someone that happens to be in the accounting firm. So as you can see what's in front of you, this is the Tipalti AP Hub. So with my user access, I have everything from being able to do payments, to viewing the bills, to setting up a new user. All of that is available here. So I can make the change based on what I want to see. So first off, we were going to start out with supplier management. So looking at that, let's say that we have a new supplier that's come on board and we want to actually onboard them here in Tipalti. How simple and easy is that? For a net new supplier, it would be as easy as clicking on Add the Payee. Is it an individual or a company? Give it a payee ID, the email address. We do handle multi-entity. So what entity does this supplier belong to? And also what language do they want to have the supplier portal in? It's offered in 17 different languages. And then we would go ahead and invite them to onboard themselves. In the case that the supplier does not want to use the supplier portal to onboard, we can just go ahead and complete this add new payee ourselves and just create it ourselves, not have to invite them to onboard. But if we are onboarding them by simply clicking this box, as part of the processes that Tipalti has thought about is doing the automation, there are emails that are generated. One of them is this email that's sent off to the supplier welcoming them to register. And this verbiage that's here in front of you can be configured to say what clients want to say to their payees. So, hey, we have a new supplier portal, come and onboard. It's really automating the process so accounting and finance doesn't have to think about, oh, did we send a welcome letter to ask them to onboard? There is a URL that's here, that's tokenized, and this email here is white labeled. So the label of the client's logo would be branded here on the email. Once the supplier clicks on this tokenized two-factor authentication link that's available, it will drive them to this supplier portal. So let me show you what it looks like. It will be white labeled, so it would have the logo of the client here. And once they create their password, they would gain access to the supplier portal that has been white labeled for them. And there's typically 3 steps that we see clients have outlined here. I do see it as small as 2 steps. So let's walk you through what you see here. This supplier happens to be a company. We're asking them to put in the information as to where they reside, their address, their domicile. And as I mentioned in the PowerPoint, we offer this in 100, we're able to offer this in 190 countries. So we happen to land here in the UK. So based on that, it's asking information. But if we were going to go to Germany, it would give the information as to what it needs to capture for that country. Additionally, what we're able to do, we're able to run OFAC, AML, sanction, terrorist list watch. There's about 9 listings that we check this information up against to make sure that they are who they say they are. And additionally, that this information is correct that they've provided us. The next step here, based on the country that we have landed, we're able to offer the different payment methods. Since we're in the UK, we offer local bank transfers, SEPA transfers, wires, prepaid debit card. The other payments, as I mentioned, we're offering 6 different payment methods. The other ones being direct deposit, ACH, also checks. Believe it or not, still clients are processing payments to suppliers in a matter of checks. PayPal is another one, so we're able to offer PayPal methods of option. So those are some of the payment options. Can it be configurable? So clients will look at the drop-down menu and say, hey, Vita, I do not want wire as a method of payment. Can we take that out from the drop-down menu? Absolutely. The other payment options being that maybe the payment currency, they want to offer it in a different payment currency. And yes, we're able to, clients can hold up to 30 funding currencies. We'll talk more about that when we get into the AP Hub again. Additionally, know that as the supplier is keying information in here and they're trying to get past the data, as I mentioned, there's business rules that's created, making sure that the proper controls are here, making sure that we're managing not only secure information, but we're actually capturing the correct information that we need to have in order to pay the suppliers in a timely manner. So let me go ahead and go on to the next phase of this, which is step 3. So often clients will say, well, I do need to capture the VAT information. Is there a spot that I can grab that information where the supplier is giving me the VAT information? Absolutely. What happens is that the VAT information is keyed and this information is captured. You can also set up triggers that will trigger an email going out to the supplier, let's say in a year's time, if you want to recapture the VAT information. Or in instances where I see where it's a W-8 or a W-8 BEN information, then when expiration date on that is approaching, clients will want to send an automated email to the suppliers to trigger a response from the suppliers to give them a new form on that matter. So step 1, 2, 3 is typically what we see here. There is, on some instances, there are only step 1 and 2 because they don't need to capture tax information. We also see another step, which is step 4, where they're capturing documentation. The clients have provided some documents to the supplier. Think of it in terms of licenses or certification. So they're rolling that out and providing it to the supplier. They fill it out and they upload it here in step 4 in terms of documentation. So as you can see, the whole step of the onboarding process has been automated through a supplier portal that has been white labeled for the client, and it's offered in 17 different languages. But I would be remiss not to point out that this really happens to be a 24/7 tool for the suppliers. At the crux of it, what it is, it's providing detailed information in terms of where is my payment. So it takes the phone call away from the finance and accounting teams having to vet questions from the suppliers as to, is the check gone out? Is the payment gone out? Or maybe an invoice was submitted. Where is my invoice in its process? Have you received my invoice? Is it in your mailbox? Or simply providing a tool that allows the suppliers to upload their invoices. Majority of our clients, I will say, are having the invoices come to a centralized email box. What we do then on this screen, we will point to that email box. We will make mention of it so suppliers know that that mailbox does exist and they can supply their invoices directly to that mailbox. So that is our supplier portal that is creating really a positive experience for the vendors to onboard themselves. It's improving the whole onboarding process from A to Z, capturing the detailed information and allowing the vendors to onboard themselves. I'm going to switch hat and take on the accounts payable persona again. And I'm going to take you through the journey of the invoice and walk you through what it looks like when the invoices are submitted to that mailbox that's dedicated for invoices. So often I get questions from clients that will say, oh, well, I get other correspondence or I get information in terms of maybe pictures of newborn babies and into that mailbox. Does it have to be only invoices? It does have to be invoices. And why is that? It's because Tipalti is using OCR technology to ingest the invoices. And what I mean by that is you will see shortly how we take the invoices and we will review that. But a couple of things to point out here where we landed. As you can see is that the invoices do come in, they land, when they come in, they land in pending review. And from pending review, we can see all the invoices that are here. Tipalti has the ability to review all the invoices. If they are duplicates, it points them out so it can ingest the invoices and see that there's a duplicate, bring that to the attention of the reviewer. In this case, it's accounts payable that's reviewing the information. So what you see in front of you right now is an invoice that has been ingested by Tipalti's OCR technology. OCR technology reads the header invoice and it allocates it in the right location. That's not to say that as accounts payable, I couldn't go in and change this data if I deemed it necessary. Additionally, what it's able to do, as it's ingesting the invoices and reading the information, it has learned through AI machine learning who the approvers on this it is. It uses something called the Tipalti Pi that's over time it's learning and getting smarter on key metadata information, right? So it's able to understand the information that's being ingested and know where the data needs to get to and where it needs to allocate to. Also, OCR is reading invoice information in terms of line items and allocating to the correct information. But in the background, during implementation, we have set up the data to reflect the information in terms of what are the chart accounts that we have. What are the allocations to the different chart accounts? Do we have division? Do we have class, location, department? While you don't see some of that information in this demo instance, but rest assured that we can capture those fields and make sure that the allocation is hitting the right GL accounts. Furthermore, what we can do here is that we can also say that, all right, we do have the approvals in this format, but as an accounts payable specialist or finance specialist, I can say that, well, I know for Stockland Services, we do want to assign a manager and we do want to give it an approval limit. So I can add that on the fly as I'm going through the review of this invoice. Ultimately, what we want to do is move this invoice through its journey. And we just, if we're good with this, click submit. What happens, since the CFO is the first person for review of this, again, as part of the automation that happens within Tipalti, is that an email is generated, the email is sent off to the CFO or whoever is the approver of that invoice, where they would see the actual invoice. They would also have visibility to the previous invoices that was received from the supplier with the list of who's approving this invoices. If they happen to be on their mobile device, they see this email, they can approve it from here, or they can click on this link, which would guide them back into the Tipalti portal, which they would have their own user password to gain access and entry into the Tipalti approvals, be able to look at all their invoices. While there are no invoices here to show you, but I can talk through what the view would look like. So imagine, if you would, there's invoices here, and this approver can come in, they can dice and slice the actual invoices based on entities, based on different departments, location. Maybe there's even custom fields that have been created, and they can dice and slice it based on the requirement that they see fit. At the end of the day, the goal is to move this invoice through its journey and make sure that it lands in Treasury for payment. So all these invoices that are here, at the time of the approval, these invoices are going over to NetSuite and updating NetSuite with the information. But as we look at the invoices that have been approved, we can see who the approvers are on this. But let's say that there was a bill that was actually maybe manually walked in, or maybe somebody sent it to the CFO's mailbox for whatever reason, and we've scanned it. And what we could do is actually upload that invoice right now. Or maybe you have vendors that do not provide invoices for whatever reason. So you might have to create a bill without an invoice. Furthermore, maybe that supplier wants to actually review the invoice before you pay them. So what you could do is push that out to the supplier portal that you saw earlier, and they would eyeball it, they would approve it, and then you can make payment on that. So what you see is creating the tools for AP and finance teams to make it very simple and easy for them to navigate through the process, to make it easy for them to figure out ways that they have to address different functionality. For instance, if there is a bill that is a high dollar amount, maybe they want to pay it partially, or maybe they had to, for some reason, pay it manually. They can do all of that within the Tipalti AP automation tool. So let's say that these are all approved. Now we're ready to make payment on them. So what we're able to do, being a licensed money transmitter, we're able to hold different currency accounts. And here in my test database, demo database, you see that I'm holding 3 funding currency accounts. So I'm able to pay invoices in US dollars, in euros, and British sterling pounds. I can hold up to 30 right here. If you said to me, Vita, you know, you have only 1 second left, show me what Tipalti can do. Really, I would bring up this screen. This screen really talks to the depth and breadth of what Tipalti can do. Here's all these invoices from the different vendors, paying in different currencies. As we mentioned, we can pay into 120 currencies and all of these different payment methods. So we can offer 6 different payment methods, right? So imagine that this is Treasury or finance as they're looking at this, and we can have different levels of approver. So CFO is approving it, or maybe a controller. And also maybe at this point, they want to have the ability to hold a payment back. So maybe a payment that's giving them heartburn, which is this 10,000 Japanese yen. So they want to hold it back or they want to cancel it. At every step of the way, creating the ability to give the information to whoever is reviewing it, but also giving them options as to how they can manage this. We do have clients that will say, well, you know, Vita, I do have some payables information that's maybe coming from another department, or maybe it's coming from payroll, and it has just Excel spreadsheet. I have created a vendor record for the employees in NetSuite, and I need to upload that information into Tipalti and pay them. Is that possible? Absolutely. What you see here is the upload payment file. So you can also do that. At the end of the day, all the information would be presented to you in the Funds Required tab. The Funds Required tab is giving you sort of like, I would think of it as a trial balance. If I think of my balance sheet, and I think of it as a trial balance, letting me know that here's all the invoices, all the payments that I have to make today or whatever date it is in US dollars. Here's all of them in euros. Here's all of them in British sterling pounds. Here's all of them in PayPal. And let's say that this is Treasury, and Treasury doesn't really go through the step of the journey of the invoice, but they're curious what makes up that amount. So they want to have a view into what they're paying and get some value as to, okay, who is it that we're paying that much? So we're able to break down that information. And since we're very much acting like a bank, we can break it out in segments that, okay, here's what are the payers transaction, and here's the FX, the currency exchange rates, and here's how much is being paid out, right? So we're doing the conversion in the scenario that you see and providing that detailed information to the clients. Ultimately, what we ask clients to do is fund a Tipalti virtual account in the funding currency that they want to. And as long as the money is, the funding is in there by a certain time, then we're able to process that information and pay the suppliers on the client's behalf. At the time of the payment, all the information is flowing over to NetSuite. It's updating NetSuite and creating the checks and balances on that side. So how does that magic happen? How do you gain the actual being able to provide that integration where it's real time, where you don't have to press a button in terms of moving the data over into NetSuite? Let's talk about that a little bit and show you how that information is set up. So during implementation, Tipalti will work with clients to configure the NetSuite in Tipalti. So we need to understand, does the client happen to have multi-entities set up? How many entities do they have? How do they want the syncing to happen? Because there are clients that will say, hey, I don't want the syncing to happen after the approval of the invoices. So we could work with clients to set up all the information. As we mentioned, we do happen to have two-way and three-way PO matching, so we can do the syncing for the item receipts. We can do the syncing for the POs. So all that information is mapped, as you can see in front of you. So we set up that configuration. We ask clients, hey, do you happen to have custom fields? Do you have custom segments? What are they? We work very closely hand in hand with the clients to make sure that the system is set up and configured to have the information in place. So we turn off the switch for the flow of the information to happen. Then that happens automatically. So when we create a vendor record, the vendor information is flowing into Tipalti, updating Tipalti. If it is being created in NetSuite, then that data flows over, comes over into Tipalti. It happens in real time. What you see in front of you right now is showing you how the information is syncing back and forth in real time between NetSuite and Tipalti, and also between Tipalti and NetSuite. So that's where the information is going back and forth and the integration is happening. So I wanted to real quickly talk about that. In the case of that, we happen to have POs in place. How would that happen and how would that materialize itself? As you saw earlier, we're able to have the ability to bring in information from NetSuite over. So we ingest the POs, we ingest the receipts, item receipts. In the process that we're syncing it, if there is no errors, then we don't have to worry about the PO matching pieces. But if there were thresholds that were set up and the system recognized those thresholds and said, oh, wait a minute, I went through the process, I ingested the POs, I ingested the receipts, and I'm looking at this and there happens to be some discrepancies here. So I want to point this out to the finance and AP teams to say, hey, I took in the invoice, I took in the POs, and I'm going to present this to you in a PO matching screen for you to review this, because this is important, finance, AP teams. So as we look at this screen, that is the PO matching screen, it's taking the information from the invoice, and here in what you see is doing a three-way matching. We also have the ability to do a two-way matching. We do allocation matching also. So it's pointing out here where we see an error that, hey, I see that we only received 7, but we're getting billed for 10, and our purchase rec that was created, purchase order, is calling out for 10. So what are we going to do here? So maybe we want to wait because we know we're still going to receive 10 more. So we want to do that. In the next line item, we see that we're getting billed for 10, but the purchase order just only called for 10. So is this one that we want to get a vendor credit, or are we going to not pay him that amount? Really, the whole purpose of the PO matching is, again, allowing the teams on the ground to make those decisions real time and be able to move this PO through its journey and land it in the hands of whoever needs to be reviewing it and proceed it to its coding. So that's what we need to do. I know that last but not least, we talked about reporting. So how do we accommodate reporting? We, as you might have seen in different segments that we walk through, we do have the ability to pull reports, but we do have one centralized location under the reports here, where if we want to pull a payee's report, we can go in and pull a payee's report. That's not to say that we can come into the payees and maybe we want to query a payee that we're interested in. So maybe we want to gain information on that payee. But no, rest assured that in reports you can run payment details to get up-to-date information on any bill payment detail that has been submitted or updated. You can also run reconciliation report. So really creating efficiencies and giving the controls in the hands of AP and finance to run the reports that they need to meet the end of the month or period end reports that they need to have. Bill details, very self-explanatory. They can get up-to-date information as to all the bill lines, that who submitted it, who approved it, who were all the approvers on it, what are the invoice line items, if there were POs on that information, you can also gain access to it. And last but not least, in the reporting, if you do happen to have vendors in the US, you do have the 1099 prep report. If they happen to be doing the W8s and W8 bins, they have the 1042S reports that are available. So that is our solution in a high level that we've gone through. I haven't looked at any chat here to see if there were questions. I'm going to pause here and see if there were any questions that we can answer.
So thanks very much, Vida. I'll now go into the Q&A segment. So I'll just have a look and see what questions we have. So the first question that we have is, how long is a typical implementation?
Yeah, definitely. So with a NetSuite implementation, what I see with clients that have their chartered accounts, everything is ready, sandbox is ready. I've seen it get up as quickly as 4 weeks and be able to get clients set up and processing their bills and invoices. Ryan.
No, thanks for that. The next question we have is, what are the different payment method options?
Yeah, definitely. So the payment option, oh, how convenient. We're actually here. So as I mentioned that, I can actually share the screen so you can see the different payment options being, we offer e-check, we offer wire transfers, we offer PayPal as an option, SEPA transfers, direct deposit, ACH, six different payment options. Prepaid debit card is another one that we use. Typically, we see that come into play in Eastern European countries where funding is difficult. So we have that also as an option. So and also to mention, not only we have those payment options, you can also pay in, we have 30 different funding currency, Ryan, that we're happy to provide a listing of that also to anyone who's interested.
Perfect, thank you for that. If everyone has any follow-up questions, well, do please just keep firing them in. So the next question is, what is the Tipalti pricing model?
Sure, I can take that one, Ryan. We're priced primarily on our contracts come together with 3 main pieces. First is a pretty minimal implementation fee, respectively. We do have a SaaS fee or a platform fee, if you will, for kind of users of the platform. What's interesting about Tipalti is that there aren't that many folks on your team that are going to need to be actual licensed users of Tipalti, since a lot of the approvals are done kind of downstream of the Tipalti platform. So via the emails that Vida shared with us, those folks don't need to actually be licensed with Tipalti. So think of folks kind of in the core AP functions, managers, CFO, et cetera, that might need to actually look at this information. Those would be the folks that would need an actual user license. But the majority of the Tipalti contract is kind of built around how much you use Tipalti. So, a good way to look at that is how many invoices would you want us to process per month? How many payments would you want us to handle per month? And, which type of payments? Obviously, wire transfers, being a different cost than, a local bank transfer, for example. So that's primarily the basis for our pricing, kind of set up on a transactional basis.
Perfect, thanks, Ben. Actually, there's a follow-up question on the back of that. Would you, based on current levels of invoice volumes, etc., be able to do a value proposition?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so
yeah,
I mean, I think kind of typically what we, what we see as being able to add value is somewhere around 100 or so invoices per month is a good number. It really, could depend on the organization, though. How important is it to really modernize their finance functions? Are they looking to scale? Do they want to? And Ryan, we talk about this from time to time. Does it make more sense to look at technology, instead of adding to more AP headcount within your organization? How can we further kind of maximize the investment that we've already made, in the cloud with NetSuite? How can we kind of, take that the last mile? Where can we help out there? So those are some of the considerations. Obviously, as we discussed, if you're a global organization, multi-subsidiary, one world client, we have some unique architecture that's really built to support those platforms. So those are a few kind of qualifying items that you might look at as an organization, whether or not you wanted to consider Tipalti. Vida, do you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
I think coming from the finance accounting background, I would say that it's really important. When I came out of university, very first thing I did was what I took you through was the Supplier Portal. So my goal in life was not to just capture vendor information. So automating those processes, having the tools, and there was actually 3 people in our organization on the accounting team that were handling suppliers, and we were only a 4,000, it wasn't a big organization. So do you really need to have all of accounting and finance hands in a supplier portal? Can you free the team up to do other things that are more important in terms of R&D and mergers and things like that, that you might need them? So I would say, doing the value proposition, finding out how much time is spent on capturing supplier information and running it through the vetting that it needs to do, or can you automate that process with these tools that you've seen in front of you?
That's perfect, thank you. If anyone would like a value proposition, do just reach out to me. My email address will be available at the end. The next question that we have is, when would you recommend as the optimum time to go live?
Oh, very, very valid thing. So I think back to when I've taken different ERP systems going live. Let's face it, there's never a good time. And if we want to wave our magic wand and say, hey, I want to do this at fiscal year begin, or I don't want to do it during accounting year end, all of that, it really depends on how agile your organization is and how lean do you run. And I would say it really depends on the client. I mean, I had a client yesterday that had everything set up and they want to go live April 1st. And they asked me, they said, is that possible? And we spent 2 hours and just went through conversation. They decided, well, maybe April 1st is really not a good time for us to go live. Maybe we can do it in May. So it all depends. We would have to have conversation to understand how your org structure is. What are your processes, and how many folks do you have? Are there other projects that they're working on? And we really need to understand that. Hope that helped, Ryan.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. Does anyone have any further questions? I'll allow 30 seconds at this point. Okay, that's perfect. Well, thank you all for taking the time out of your day to view today's webinar. If you'd like any further information, a personalized demonstration, or a value proposition, as we've discussed, please reach out to me at ryan.harris@noblue.co.uk. So once again, thank you all for taking the time out of your day, and I look forward to speaking with you all soon.
Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.